just aren't heard and continue to sort of face these barriers.
The same questions of empowerment are dominating the economic discussion in Washington. The Fed, under Jerome Powell, making racial and gender disparities part of the conversation on monetary policy. And yet, President Joe Biden making equality a priority for his administration. Cecilia Rouse is the first black woman to lead the Council of Economic Advisors.
Here at the Council of Economic Advisors, for example, we are really doing a careful look at federal statistics and to ensure that there are adequate samples of people for different groups so that we can measure and be keeping track of, for example, the unemployment rate by subgroups.
When we're talking about inequities, right, that's not solved by better monetary policy, right? That's solved by fair and equitable not only employment practices, but promotion practices and provision of opportunities.
Well, I think one of the things that the federal government can do and President Biden will be able to do is use the bully pulpit to push hard for the federal government to do this with minority-owned companies in everything we do.
Harold Butler oversees banking services with the U.S. government for Citigroup's investment bank. He also helps manage the bank's work with minority-owned financial institutions whose numbers have dwindled in the last decade.
Up until recently, there has never been a black financial institution that has assets over $1 billion. Now, basic statistics will tell you that in order to make a meaningful change in communities, right, to be able to be empowered to support communities, you got to have assets over $1 billion. The work that we started with the Treasury Department was about creating opportunities for minority deposit institutions to do business with Treasury. Industrial Bank is the bank that's actually doing business with the government today. It's historical. They're the first and they're only black financial institution to actually do business with the Department of Treasury. That's fundamental. That's game changing, right? Because it creates a new line of revenue, but it steps up really to focus on some of these banks, and it gives them an opportunity to participate in things well beyond retail banking, for example, or making small loans.
As the racial wealth gap widens, disparities in home ownership continue to hobble minority communities. But in 2020, Wells Fargo made Christy Furco the first black woman to lead its home lending division. She's made it clear that she aims to put more black people in homes, and she understands the challenges of doing so.
There's an issue around being able to save for the down payment. So down payment assistance is really important. FICO scores, continue to be lower for Black Americans than they do for the general population. And so working on access to credit in that way. And then affordable housing supply. If people can save the down payment and get ready, there aren't the availability of housing, and with the limited housing supply market that we've seen, it's more and more difficult for that affordable housing supply to move forward. So those are the barriers that we consistently see.
Melissa Bradley is a serial entrepreneur who has also launched business development programs. She says the pandemic may actually accelerate the growth of minority businesses, creating more entrepreneurs ready to put investments to work.
While we say that entrepreneurship at large has somewhat been on a decline, I would say amongst communities of color, it's been one of the fastest growing aspects of their life. And probably for one, because it is an opportunity to oftentimes fill that gap where their paychecks don't meet all of their bills.
How do you create a system here where you can ensure that those folks who have good ideas can actually connect with the people who have the money, who think they're good ideas?
There's been a plethora and increase in crowdfunding and the kind of organization of people having access. Certainly, CDFIs have now been better funded and have received a lot of money and resources to particularly put towards Black and brown businesses. And obviously, again, unfortunately, because of George Floyd, you now have lots of corporations who have made commitments to be able to help Black entrepreneurship thrive. And so you're beginning to see more grant programs. You're beginning to see more alternative types of capital.
Many also think the Fed can do a lot more. Katerina Saraiva covers the economy for Bloomberg News.
We know the main regulatory entity for banking when it comes to lending to minorities is the Community Reinvestment Act. And that isn't really a powerful tool. There's an overhaul right now going on of the CRA. It's still kind of being debated right now, so we don't know what that's going to look like. So that'll really be interesting to see if they do give it more power.
How does that tone from Washington run into, influence changes on Wall Street and corporate America?
Oh, well, I think it's extraordinarily helpful when you get that kind of message from the top. But let's make no mistake, the person at the top can have a lot of focus, can be loud about it, but there needs to be that measure of accountability in the middle. By the time the narrative gets up to the CEO, the narrative has been changed. So you need to make sure that there's a measure of accountability in the middle if you want it to be successful.
That wraps up our special report on money and equality. But Bloomberg's coverage of equality, it doesn't stop here.
For more news, opinion, and analysis focusing on equality around the world, visit Bloomberg.com/equality. Bloomberg Terminal clients can use the function EQLY Go.
And we want to hear from you. You can reach out to the Equality team on Twitter at BBG Equality and on Instagram at Bloomberg Equality.
Thanks to everyone who spoke to us for this program.
And thank you for watching. I'm Romaine Bostick.
And I'm Shonali Bassick. This is Bloomberg. While Silicon Valley gets most of the attention for tech innovation, for more than half a century, another innovation hotbed has been sprouting on the opposite coast. The greater Boston area is now home to the highest concentration of the most powerful biotech and life sciences companies in the world, including Moderna, one of the companies that's saving the world with their COVID-19 vaccine. I'm Emily Chang. Welcome to a special edition of Bloomberg Technology, Boston. Over the next half hour, we will bring you leaders and big thinkers from Boston Mayor Kim Janey.
We do have an opportunity to create a better Boston for all of us.
And former mayor, now Labor Secretary, Marty Walsh.
We're seeing positive signs as we continue to move forward here.
To Moderna co-founder Noubar Afeyan.
It all exists here and it's feeding off of each other.
And Boston Celtics owner Steve Pagliuca.
We've learned, first of all, that sports is a great unifying force. Even in this pandemic.
We'll tell you a story, not only about how Boston helped rescue the world from a pandemic, but is also recovering in a world that will be forever changed. Bloomberg Bay State business columnist Kim Carrigan paints the picture.
The grip of the coronavirus pandemic was crippling in the Bay State from the start. Within months of the state's economy being shut down, unemployment hit a peak of more than 17% in June, the worst in the nation. More than 650,000 Massachusetts residents were without work. Job postings dropped 39%, and small business revenue plummeted 64%. Massachusetts responded quickly with a $774 million economic recovery plan.
To be clear, there's no substitute for the size and scope that a federal aid package could deliver. But that doesn't seem to be in the offing, and we certainly don't believe that we can wait.
Making it one of the largest aid programs in the country.
Without these investments by our government entities, a lot of these small businesses wouldn't have made it.
Massachusetts also prioritized its continued support for innovative health and biotech, with over 100 life sciences companies working to develop diagnostics, therapeutics, and vaccines, including Cambridge-based Moderna.
Our plan right now is to continue to make as many COVID-19 vaccines as authorized in the UK, US, and Europe.
All this at a time when Boston experienced an unplanned transition of power.
President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris have nominated me to be Labor Secretary in their administration.
And during a time of unprecedented racial reckoning.
With the launch of All-Inclusive Boston, we will begin to write the next chapter in Boston's safe recovery, reopening, and renewal.
The reopening approach here has been slow and steady, and while the business landscape will be different for years to come, there are recent signs of recovery. Massachusetts unemployment has rebounded to 6.8%, and consumers are shopping again. Spending is up 18% since January.
The companies that made it through the pandemic, they're smarter, they're leaner, and they really know how to serve their customer, and that's what's going to make them prosperous and give them a future up through